Did Jeffrey Epstein, the high-profile financier and convicted sex offender, really take his own life? This question has been at the heart of countless debates, discussion forums, and conspiracy theories since August 2019. A man of immense wealth and power, Epstein was a paradox wrapped in an enigma. His life was as controversial as his death is mysterious. Epstein was not just a wealthy financier, but a socialite with a circle that included presidents, prime ministers, and princes. His life was a web of opulence, influence, and secrecy. And when his reprehensible actions came to light, the world was left in shock. But it was his death in the confines of a prison cell that really shook the world. Was it a suicide, as officially reported, or was there something far more sinister at play? As we delve into the details, remember, nothing is as it seems. A man of humble beginnings, Epstein's rise to power was nothing short of extraordinary. Jeffrey Epstein, a name that sends shivers down the spine of many, was not born into the lap of luxury. He was a Brooklyn native, son of a New York City Parks Department employee. His journey from the middle-class streets of Brooklyn to the upper echelons of society is a story of cunning, ambition, and ruthless determination. Epstein's first foray into the world of finance was at Bear Stearns, a global investment bank and securities trading and brokerage firm. With no college degree, Epstein's rise in the firm was meteoric. His knack for numbers and brilliant mind gave him an edge, and he quickly ascended the ranks, becoming a partner in just 4 short years. But it was not just his financial acumen that was on display. Epstein had a unique ability to befriend and ingratiate himself with the rich and powerful. He rubbed shoulders with tycoons, politicians, and even royalty. His charm and charisma, coupled with his financial prowess, made him an irresistible force in elite circles. Epstein soon left Bear Stearns to embark on his own venture. He founded J. Epstein and Company, a firm that only served billionaires. Yes, you heard it right, only billionaires. His firm was shrouded in secrecy, as was his method of amassing wealth. Epstein's fortune was estimated to be in the hundreds of millions, yet the specifics remained a mystery. His connections extended far and wide, from Wall Street to Hollywood, from academia to politics. They included names like Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and many more. Epstein had built an empire that was seemingly untouchable. But as Epstein's star rose, so did the allegations against him. As we will see in the next chapter, Epstein's meteoric rise would soon be overshadowed by a much darker narrative, a narrative of exploitation and abuse. But that's a story for another time. For now, we leave you with the image of Epstein at the pinnacle of his power, a man who had seemingly conquered the world. Behind the facade of a successful financier, a darker story was unfolding. Beneath the glamour and the glitz of Epstein's high society life, whispers of a far more sinister narrative were beginning to circulate. Allegations of sexual misconduct began to surface, painting a horrifying picture of abuse and exploitation. These weren't just rumors or idle gossip. They were serious allegations from numerous victims who shared eerily similar stories. Stories of a man using his power, wealth, and influence to prey on the vulnerable. But it wasn't until the late 2000s that authorities finally began to pay attention. In 2008, Epstein found himself at the center of a major investigation. The allegations had grown too loud to ignore. Epstein was charged with multiple counts of solicitation of prostitution, including one involving a minor. But in a move that left many scratching their heads, he struck a controversial plea deal. Instead of facing the potential of life in prison, Epstein was handed a comparatively light sentence, just 18 months in jail. The deal sparked outrage. Critics argued it was far too lenient, given the severity of the allegations. But it also raised questions about Epstein's connections. How had he managed to secure such a deal? What strings had he pulled? And who was protecting him? Epstein served just 13 months of his sentence before being released. For a time, it seemed like he might be able to return to his former life. But the allegations didn't disappear. They continued to haunt him. And then, in 2019, Epstein was arrested again. But this time, he wouldn't make it to trial. The charges were graver, the evidence more damning. Epstein was facing the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars. But before his day in court could come, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. And so, the saga of Jeffrey Epstein took an even more dramatic turn. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. This statement was received with shock and suspicion around the globe. Officially, Epstein's death was ruled a suicide, but the circumstances surrounding it have become a breeding ground for speculation and conspiracy theories. Epstein was held in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, a secure facility that has housed some of the most notorious criminals in recent history. Despite this, Epstein was allegedly able to take his own life. The apparent lapses in prison protocol have raised eyebrows. For instance, Epstein was taken off suicide watch mere days before his death, even though he had reportedly attempted suicide just weeks prior. Moreover, the guards assigned to Epstein's unit were found to have falsified records, claiming they had checked on Epstein every 30 minutes as required, when in fact they had not. This lapse in security has fueled the fire of skepticism, leading many to wonder, how could such a high-profile inmate be left unmonitored? Perhaps the most suspicious element is the autopsy report. According to the New York City Medical Examiner's Office, Epstein died of suicide by hanging. However, a renowned forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's brother has disputed this conclusion, pointing to several unusual injuries that are more consistent with homicide than suicide. Adding to the intrigue, Epstein was a man who held a multitude of secrets. His connections to influential figures, both in the United States and abroad, have caused many to question whether Epstein's death was truly a suicide, or if he was silenced to prevent the exposure of these secrets. The question then becomes, if Epstein didn't die by his own hand, who had a vested interest in his demise? Who had the most to gain from his death? As we delve into the conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein's death in our next segment, we'll explore these questions and more. So if Epstein didn't take his own life, who had the most to gain from his death? The answer may be more complex than we realize, and it is this murky uncertainty that keeps the mystery of Epstein's death alive. In the wake of Epstein's death, numerous conspiracy theories have taken root. Each one more intriguing than the last, these theories have added a layer of mystery to an already complex narrative. One of the most prominent theories suggests that Epstein was murdered to prevent him from revealing damaging information about his high-profile connections. This theory hinges on the belief that Epstein's extensive network of influential friends had much to lose if he decided to talk. The suspicious circumstances surrounding Epstein's death, including the supposedly malfunctioning cameras and the guards' alleged negligence, have only added fuel to the fire of this conjecture. Another theory delves into the realm of the fantastical, suggesting that Epstein is, in fact, still alive. Proponents of this theory argue that Epstein, with his wealth and connections, could have staged his death and disappeared to live out his days in obscurity. While there is little evidence to support this claim, it persists due to the lack of transparency surrounding Epstein's death. Yet another theory explores the possibility of Epstein being a pawn in a larger game of international espionage. This theory suggests that Epstein was a honey trap used by intelligence agencies to blackmail powerful individuals. His sudden death, according to this theory, was a cleanup operation by these covert entities to erase any traces of their clandestine activities. The final theory we'll touch upon suggests that Epstein's death was a simple suicide, but one orchestrated by Epstein himself to escape the consequences of his actions. This theory posits that Epstein, realizing the gravity of his situation, chose to end his life rather than face the humiliation and punishment that awaited him. While these theories remain unproven, they continue to fuel the mystery surrounding Epstein's death. Each theory, whether grounded in fact or fiction, reflects the public's fascination with and skepticism towards the official narrative. As we delve deeper into the enigma of Jeffrey Epstein, these conspiracy theories serve as a reminder of the many unanswered questions that still surround his life and death. Despite the official narrative, questions remain about Epstein's death. We've traversed the enigmatic life of Jeffrey Epstein, from his dizzying rise to his shocking allegations and convictions. We've also delved into the circumstances surrounding his death and the swirling vortex of conspiracy theories that emerged in its wake. Yet, in every crevice of this tale, lingering doubts persist like stubborn shadows refusing to be banished. How did a man of such influence find himself in a position to take his own life? Why were the standard prison protocols not followed on that fateful night? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, who else was involved? Each unanswered question forms a piece of a puzzle that seems to be missing more than it reveals. They remind us that in many ways we are still grappling with the same mysteries that defined Epstein's life. In the end, the truth about Epstein's death remains as elusive as the man himself.